Yo everybody, what's good? My name's Kang and today we're going to be going over a TFSA bootcamp. But before we get started, let me know in the comments, do you currently have a TFSA? And while you're down there, hit the like button because it really helps the channel grow. So you may have heard the word TFSA been thrown around a lot when people talk about investing, but aside from an acronym, what is a TFSA? TFSA stands for Tax-Free Savings Account. And just as a side note, whoever came up with this name did a terrible job because it's pretty misleading. I know that it says tax-free savings account, but you should really be thinking about your TFSA like a tax-free investment account. To understand why the TFSA is so great, we first have to understand how investments are normally taxed in Canada. This is a very simplified explanation, but basically every single time you make a profit on a stock or an ETF, you're going to have to pay tax on that profit. On the flip side, a TFSA lets you grow your investment without ever having to pay tax no matter how big or how small the profit is. You can open a TFSA with a bunch of different platforms like Wealthsimple Invest, Questrade, Wealthsimple Trade, and they all make it very easy for you to get started. How it works is, every year the government gives each Canadian over the age of 18 a certain amount that they can invest into their TFSA. This is called the contribution limit. This contribution limit changes every so often, and for the last 3 years it's been $6,000. Any unused contribution room will be carried forward to the next year indefinitely, and any withdrawals from your TFSA will be given back to you as contribution room in the year after. Once you invest into your TFSA, any money that you make from your investments are not taxed ever, which is amazing, right? You know how some people say that life only has two truths, death and taxes? Well, in this case, the TFSA will save you from some of those taxes, but not so much the death part. If you're still confused about the contribution limits, I think it will make a lot more sense through an example. Let's rewind to when we could go outside. It's 2019 and you just turned 18. Happy birthday. You decide to invest $5,000 into your TFSA. In 2019, the contribution limit for the TFSA was $6,000, which means after you invest your $5,000, you have an additional $1,000 worth of unused contribution room. Now, if you don't use that contribution room in 2019, that $1,000 would be carried forward to the next year. Now that you have the $5,000 within your TFSA, you can use that money to purchase a whole bunch of different investments like stocks, bonds, ETFs, mutual funds, GICs, and any profit or gains or dividends that you make from those investments will never ever be taxed. Okay, let's fast forward a bit to 2020. Your contribution room for this year is $7,000. $6,000 of that is coming from the government, and the other $1,000 is coming from unused contribution room in 2019. If at any point in 2020 you decide to sell all of your investments and withdraw the money from your TFSA, that money will not be taxed and you can use it however you like. On top of that, the amount that you pulled out will be given back to you as contribution room in 2021. So say for example, you pulled out $3,000, that $3,000 will be added onto your contribution room in 2021. To summarize the formula for contribution room for each year, it's amount from the government plus unused contribution room from the year before plus the total withdrawals from the year before. Hopefully that example makes some sense, but if you're still confused, you can always check the CRA website for more information and to figure out what your contribution room is for that year. These are the basics of a TFSA, and for most people, I think this is enough information to get started. Okay, so now that you understand what a TFSA is and how it works, you're probably wondering, what should I invest into my TFSA? One of the most common uses of the TFSA is to invest passively for the long term. Sure, you can go out there and buy the latest tech or weed stock and hope to 10x within a couple years, but the chances of you finding a diamond in the rubble is slim to none. Investing is a marathon and not a sprint, and the TFSA is a perfect pair of long distance runners. By not rushing to the end of the finish line and settling for the average, you're able to build a solid nest egg, especially if you start investing early. Okay, in this next part, I'm going to be doing like a rapid fire Q&A, answering some questions that I've had or I've seen online or my friends have asked me about like TFSAs and the misconceptions I've heard about them. Question: how do I open a TFSA? You can open your TFSA through many platforms like Questrade, Wealthsimple Trade, Wealthsimple Invest, or even your bank. Most of the time, these are very easy to do and they give you step-by-step instructions that you just have to kind of fill out forms for. Question: can I only have one TFSA? No, you can have as many as you want. The government doesn't care about how many TFSAs you have, they only care about the total contribution that you have done to all of your accounts. So you could have 2 TFSAs with Wealthsimple and Questrade, and then you could do $3,000 in each of them and it would be fine. But for simplicity's sake, I recommend having your TFSA in only one place, just to make everything simple. Question: what if I over-contribute my TFSA? If you over-contribute to your TFSA, first of all, the government's going to find out and they're going to get really mad at you, and they're going to hit you with some nasty penalties. I'll leave a link to more info in the description below. Question, can I day trade in my TFSA? You can't day trade in your TFSA. I mean, you can try, but if the government finds out, they're gonna hit you with some nasty penalties. Question, can I buy US stocks within my TFSA? Yes, if you're using a self-directed brokerage account like Questrade, you can convert Canadian cash into American cash within your brokerage account. Then inside your TFSA, you can buy US listed stocks or US listed ETFs if you'd like. Question, I have my TFSA with a bank, is that okay? Yes, but no. While technically you can have your TFSA through your bank, I personally think that the TFSA should be looked at like an investment account rather than a savings account. And a lot of times these banks will try to sell their TFSA products to unsuspecting Canadians that don't really know what they're talking about yet with the TFSA, like 18-year-old me. These accounts are usually savings accounts with super low interest rates like 1% or even 0.5%. I personally think your money will go much further if you invest into higher yield returns like stocks or ETFs. Question. Now that you say it, I have a TFSA with my bank. Does that mean I should sell everything and move it out of my account to move it to a different platform? No. Odds are if you move all the money out of your TFSA that's with the bank and then recontribute it to another platform like Questrade within the same year, you're probably going to over-contribute, which means you're going to be hit with some pretty big fees. A better way to go about it is doing what's called a transfer in kind, where basically an institution will transfer all of your investments or all of your cash to another institution. This way you can move your investments or move your cash without actually triggering any more contributions. Usually the bank will charge you a fee for leaving, but most of the time the institution that you're going to will waive that fee and pay for it. I'll leave a link to more resources in the description below. Question, can I use my TFSA for short-term savings? Yes and no. In my opinion, you should not be investing any money that you need within the next 5 years. And I think that applies to TFSAs as well. I know it may be tempting because you can just withdraw whatever money you want and then recontribute it the next year or the year after and not pay taxes on any of the money that you make. But using your TFSA and potentially losing contribution room is a risk that I'm not willing to take. Question, can I write off my losses in my TFSA? No, since you don't get taxed on capital gains, you also don't get to write off capital losses. Question, if I forget to contribute 1 year, is that room gone forever? No, any unused room will be carried forward to the next year indefinitely. Question, can I lose contribution room in my TFSA? Yes, just as you can gain contribution rooms in your TFSA by selling stocks or ETFs at a profit, you can also lose contribution room in your TFSA by selling stocks or ETFs at a loss. This concludes rapid fire Q&A with Kang. Overall, I love the TFSA. It's a great tool that's easy to use and understand in comparison to its big brother, the RRSP. The TFSA is still relatively new to Canadians. It was only released in 2009, which means our parents couldn't take full advantage of what the TFSA has to offer. But it gives us young Canadians a great opportunity to invest as early as possible and let compound interest and time do its thing. I think that if you can contribute any money to your TFSA starting at the age of 18, you can set yourself up nicely for the future. Aside from the fact that you're letting your money compound over time and grow, you're setting yourself up by having strong investing habits at an early age. I understand that this could be difficult for a lot of young Canadians, so if you have the opportunity to invest in your TFSA, I definitely think you should take advantage of that and do so. I also think that a lot of people will see the TFSA as a way to save for a trip or buy their first car, but in my opinion, the TFSA should be used for long-term investments. But again, everyone is different and that is only my opinion. You should think about your long-term goals or your short-term goals and see where the TFSA can fit in with that and help you achieve those goals. But other than that, thanks for watching the video if you made it this far. If you liked it, please consider liking and subscribing. I plan to make a new video every 2 weeks, so hit the bell notification so you don't miss out. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below or hit me up on Instagram. But other than that, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Later.